Hi there, and welcome to the Intellectual Adventure Podcast. Today, I'm joined with Cameron Scully and Benjamin Heaney. Today, we're going to be discussing why it's important to support local businesses and a couple of local businesses that we support, small businesses in small town, not specifically local businesses.
I actually have a business in Quincy, California. I used to visit frequently the Quincy toy store, and that toy store is historical for the town, and there's also just really good business coming out of that establishment due to the caring nature. And the toy store has done a really good job at establishing itself in the community by gaining trust with people and really showing that they care for the people that they're selling to. And that's the part that I really enjoyed, is you could actually tell that they enjoyed doing that in the process that goes behind it. Yes, some of it would be work, of course, and as with any business, there's days you win and there's days you lose. But it always seemed like they put out a spirit where they wanted all of us to win when we came in there. And it was a consistent gift for them to operate and do business with the community each day that I was around, to hang out and be part of that community there. And that's what I think makes small business especially powerful, is you know a whole community can be moved by just someone trying to make a living. If you really think about it at the bare roots, like, most people start a business not just because they care about the community, but because they also need to make a living. And it's best to provide a service or something that you at least enjoy doing. And maybe you don't know that you enjoy that certain thing, but in that situation, trying it out and taking the time to at least give it a chance and grow is at least worth the gamble, if you feel it's going to put you in a positive direction. Maybe you take a risk now, but that reward, if you stick with it and pay attention, could definitely bolster your confidence and your quality of life. So that's why I definitely am inspired by that business personally. And it's not just from a friend standpoint of knowing Matt and the owner's family there. Like, they're great people, but if you look from a business standpoint, they're also very clever, they're very smart, they work hard to engage with their customers. And that's not easy. That's not easy in the 21st century with social media and everything. Yeah, it does definitely help to a degree, but staying connected with those people, actually forming relationships where it's people like me who want to talk about that, who want to share those stories with people that probably won't even step foot in the business, you know. But it's still an inspirational story to those entrepreneurs that are trying to make it out there. Like, oh, look, this person out there, that, like, in his situation, he was on my show, and he worked on TV shows. He was literally doing video editing and for major productions. And um it if that doesn't make you happy, find something that does. And that's what he did. And he took a chance. And I mean, there's not many people in from SoCal area that I think would be interested in owning a toy store. So that makes him quite unique in that adventure. And I definitely think it's awesome to see business like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good way to look at it, and you certainly get a better perspective from the smaller business, from the people who are directly involved. And don't always agree with what mega corporations say, but I do agree that Elon Musk has a principle where, CEOs of a lot of these mega corporations and production companies should live in the factory, and it gives you that more authentic feel of the hands-on approach of the local business. You understand what's happening with all aspects of your product, and your standards are being met at each point of execution. In the small business, it's so much easier to control that climate, that business structure, and it's so much easier to interact with your clientele. Like you were saying, and maybe people who might not interact with your business when you're out and about in society, but you still have the experience of building your business, of running that business, of looking into the way other people do things to gain those resources and that knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that being said, is there any business that you personally would say inspires you?
Um, there's not like any one business that inspires me. Locally here, there's so many people who do a lot of artsy stuff. So I think anyone that does like authentic handcrafted crochet, it has my admiration though. There's so much time and effort put into crochet that when people they don't understand the value of why, if you did an actual like crochet blanket, why, if someone valued their time, it would cost like $1,300, and even then they would make minimum wage on their time. And it's pretty scary, but it's like it's the value of that handcrafted piece versus factory produced, and someone paying attention to it being double stitched versus single stitched, or that's a bad example, not relative to crochet, but in terms of just working with fabric in general. The Without pointing to a specific business, there's a lot of food businesses here that I absolutely love, that they saw a hole in the market and said, you know what? I'm going to fill it. We're going to be the local uh, farm sourced vegan restaurant or vegetarian restaurant. And there's a couple of places here. There's one, Frankie, We Salute You is the name of the restaurant. And the owner does exactly that. He locally sources ingredients from all the local farms. He changes out the menu seasonally, and it's entirely vegetarian. And they actually do make good food. A lot of the times, vegetarian food gets a bad rap, but there's a lot of stuff you can make that's quite good, and that restaurant is proving it.
How exciting. Benjamin, are there any responses you want to lay out?
I think yeah, it's the what you were saying about when it comes to the corporate, like um living in the factory, as you were saying, Cactus. When it comes to having those small businesses, it's their livelihood depends on the community and the people that surround them. It's you have some people that go out and they start a business and it unfortunately doesn't really go anywhere because either there's not many people that are part of that are interested in that specific business, or it's like circumstance happens where there's another one that just has so much more popularity. But when it comes to, like, say, a mega corporation or a larger, nationwide corporation, is you have that investment put in at so many different levels far out. It's invested into the stock market. You have people from all over the nation who are investing in it. But there's no one actually really living in the factories apart from the workers. And so there's almost like a disconnect there. But when you have a local business, your investors are everyone that's next to you. The business is literally next door to you. They may be competition, but at the same time, they're also doing what they can to make a living. And I think it's not even just so much we think about craftsmen, we think about, food business, but what about like the local financial advisor that has been, helping people save a dime here and there in order to really kind of make their way and save and earn, or even the local lawyer who, you know, he's not part of the county, or he doesn't work for the county or for the state, but he works for, the people that might need a helping hand every here and there. It's making that local connection that is so vital, and being able to keep that alive and support local businesses. It can be hard because it's expensive now, but at the same time, if you want to keep a local business alive, you have to support it. There's sometimes where the cost is not as important perhaps as the experience and the connection that you're making there. For me, what it is like a local business that I really like is, game stores. Like as Cameron was saying, this kind of relates to Matt back up in Quincy. I've known Matt, and he is a gamer through and through. Not so much perhaps video games, but board games. I've grown up with board games of all different sorts. My dad is I wouldn't call him a fanatic. My mom might disagree with that, but he loves his board games. And so that kind of connection, was being able to go in, and Matt goes and says, "Hey, here's this one. I just got this one in. Oh, you should try it. It's got these really great mechanics and stuff." But down here, there's a store called Outer Plains. They have Magic tournaments, Warhammer tournaments, tabletop games, such a variety, and it's a place where a community can come together, interact. I think that's, for me at least, that's one thing that I really enjoy, is having those spaces to meet with fellow hobbyists and interact in game.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point, and one that I kind of neglected. Um, One of the staples of communities around here, and just communities that have been in general, have been board game cafes. And it's been, places where you can go enjoy a hot beverage and a snack, and then also just hang out for a few hours and browse or use their library of games. And I've been in quite a few board game cafes that have like several thousand, or in the thousands of board games. And it's just incredible to see their vast library of different tabletop Warhammer games, or strategy games. You've got your risks and your stratagems and everything else, and it's really cool to see that, just the the different genre selection, and just that they're creating a space in their community for people to go and experience new things, because there's absolutely no way you've played all 1000 of those games unless you're working in there every day, or every single night is a game night with the friends and you always bust out 2 or 3 board games. But it's cool because it's not just Monopoly, and it's not just checkers or chess. It's something different, but they also have your classics. So it gives people a great place to experience the nostalgia, but also to find something new.
Yeah, it's a cool concept. Definitely a bonding experience. We had a store in Quincy that was called Stone Leaf, that did a town-wide event at some point that quite a few of us were a part of. Benjamin, I don't know if he was part of that event when it happened, but there was a whole like town-wide Nerf fight, and it was like a whole zombie apocalypse thing. Um, kind of hard to describe in words, but
I
it was like a
remember
whole Nerf makeup event, like for the kids, in the town, and it was just super cool. Like the community got all sorts of involvement.
I remember hearing about that. I was unfortunately not able to be part of that, but I remember hearing about and how cool it was, and just the sense of community that came from it.
Yeah, it was literally like an era of our town, and think about it, like it was different. Like, I mean, Pizza Factory was still there before it burned down, and various things. Like it's just, in a small town, any change can mean a big difference in the culture and what people remember when they go back to it. And like that I've definitely seen some differences in my lifetime. I mean, even with like, there used to be a laundromat store or like a washing machine store. You remember where Bargain Boutique used or was, or sorry,
I
is,
remember that.
like,
Yep.
yeah, like there was that, and then we had a video game store that went out, um, like so many of them after just digital media came up to be such a steep competition. But they they definitely change, these environments, these town settings where people move into different interests and move away from the area, and it really gives opportunity for people who may not have as much experience to really dip their legs in the world of business. Like you can start from any pool and work your way up if you're willing to find and keep working at something that works for you.
You mentioning the digitalization of business, actually, I want to touch on that. I think that that's something that's kind of changed recently, is like when we think about small business or even local businesses, we think of something in the area that like you can go into a store and you can buy from a certain product. But then you have a site like Etsy where you have people who are like, either it's a second job, or it's an extra way to earn some cash on the side, or maybe it's a hobby or something, but it is a way to kind of support people either in your local area or abroad, with things that kind of have your interest. Of course, that may not pull directly into your local community, but those are individuals who are just making something that they enjoy, and something that they can get out. I think that's, if you guys have opinion, I'm sure not everybody inherently agrees with that, but from my experience, that is, something that I think may not have to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, no, in the content creation space, especially, it's something that I kind of forget about. But you mentioned Etsy. Other than the bad rap it's gotten recently for being filled with drop shippers and everything else, but that's a different conversation for a different time. Um, it is a great way to look through the digital landscape and see what local services are being provided near you, and things like graphic design or media management, web page development, all these different things you don't see really locally advertised. And chances are they're not printing out flyers and putting them up at the local coffee shop like we used to. It's sending out email lists or Facebook groups and things like that they've moved to a different form of marketing. But the digital landscape oh, bye Ben, is uh, is an avenue that a lot of people don't consider. But even in streaming, if you were looking for a music source that is not going to get copyright struck easily, or at least for a long period of time, they highly suggest you go and find a local musician, someone who is trying to get their name out there, is trying to get their music more recognized, because they will almost certainly want you to be promoting their music. And all you have to do is just link to their socials or their media page, and it's advertising for them, and you get music to use for your content. So it's really a win-win situation that you can support local artists that way. And that's kind of something that I'm glad that Ben brought up, because I didn't think about until he mentioned. Um, so it was refreshing that he mentioned that. And my opinion is that you should be supporting digital artists on the local landscape, and you should at least try and think of ways that maybe there is someone locally who can provide you with a digital service, and that is a good way to support both your local economy and both local connections.
The biggest thing with that, I think, is it's definitely communication, right? If you don't know what's out there, then you're never really gonna understand what best to support and what might be good quality versus bad quality. So I definitely think what you guys are suggesting with this is true.
Yeah. It's it's also kind of hard. I think the other thing to take into account is the issue when it comes from is also the changing in costs of things. A lot of times when you if you get something like you say artisan or locally supported business, it's a little bit more the regret the unfortunate reality is that it's really difficult from what I've seen to keep up with larger corporations and larger kind of international businesses. I can't recall the last time I saw a local hardware store because most of them have to do to be those like, either statewide or nationwide kind of stores. And it's difficult. It's sad to see that happen, and you then have to ask, okay, well, apart from everyone else getting paid more, how do we afford to support more local businesses apart from just biting the bullet per se, and you know running the risk of taxing your budget too much.
Well, and then I think maybe maybe that draws into the question. It's great to support local, but when do you sacrifice supporting local for quality? Right? Like, so in terms of chef's knives, my go-to is German knives. I like Wusthof knives or Japanese knives, handcrafted traditional Japanese knives. And that is to say, as we were talking about in the previous episode, where masters typically know they've sourced a lot of information from different sources on previous masters and previous texts and different places that they could get information, and they know where to get more information. um, so they do you have to value that knowledge and those techniques, and you want your local business to be at that level, but there's just sometimes where corporations or shipping companies have the advantage in that case, and on even as you said, almost to the point of pushing them out of the market.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, it's absolutely unfortunate that this happens in a lot of cases. Like the last episode, we were talking about agriculture. That's one of those situations where a lot of people in farmers markets have to charge a higher premium, to offset the margin of difference and the consumers that they get. You only get so many people shopping an area. Yeah, you're probably not going to bring as much um, produce to market.
I was just thinking about this actually, because then that might bring in the issue of like, oh, is there any way we can kind of try to either counter, larger business like mega corporation businesses and support local businesses at a state or county level? But then that the issue then comes in if you were to try to give either state support or funding to local businesses, how do you regulate that? Because anyone can go up and say, hey, I own a small business, get a certain stipend to cover their costs, and then they don't actually have it. And then they just end up pocketing that money. What's the qualification for how many qualifies as a small business? Is it one or two shops, 10 to 15 employees? Like, apart from, and I think this is kind of where you get into the like it breaks down into less laissez-faire and more kind of state controlled commerce is in trying to equalize it out and ensure people have a chance to make a business, what if there's no market and you're just sinking money into something that doesn't actually have a real appeal to people?
Well, the thing with that is it's really out of your hands too, in a lot of cases as a business owner. You're you're really taking a risk with any business, unless it's like something essential. There's always going to be that gap of difference where you just won't fully understand what you're getting into with all that until you're exposed to a nasty side of it in most cases. Like a lot of people don't know how to do their tax paperwork when starting a business and stuff like that. Like I know that's definitely an intimidating factor for people considering that kind of venture. And that goes to show like why successful small businesses are all the more impressive.
One thing I might add about business taxes is when you are a business starting out, when you are earning your revenue, just remember to put 30% of your revenue away for taxes. Something that business owners typically forget when they are starting out a business is that you do actually have to pay taxes on revenue. Your local laws, your tax laws would definitely be better to be looked into, and I will advise you of that. But here locally, it's if you generate more than $16,000, I do believe is the number, 16,200, somewhere around there. It becomes not a hobby, and anything after that, you have to claim for taxable income. So you should always be putting away 30% of your revenue in anticipation for the moment where you start getting taxed. And then 30% is just a safe margin. And if you don't get taxed 30%, then you end up having a tax return, basically. So it's actually really nice in that regard. So be prepared and do look into your local tax laws when you are looking to start a business. And then once you are claiming things as a business, look into what you can write off as a business expense. It's a lot more than what you think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's surprising how much leverage there is in the tax system. I know it's different between Canada and U.S. of course, but at least in the U.S. there's all sorts of loopholes that I couldn't begin to list. I'm not a financial guru, but um, it is fascinating to see from the outside in.
Absolutely.
But honestly, with that, I don't think there's too much more we have to get into today with this subject. This one's kind of a short but sweet, but um, really, I think it's an important subject to highlight. And if anything, this is meant to showcase small business out there and a little personal shout out from the show to the small business owners that make communities grow and succeed in their community organization and efforts towards improving happiness, improving quality of life. Like we need small business owners, and we really do appreciate you doing your thing out there, and hope that maybe this drives some traffic your way passively to the local economy. And we implore you here to shop locally. Seriously, keep cash local. Like that's something in my hometown that was big. Like keeping the dollars in the system in rotation in that area, especially in like restaurant industry. That's huge. You would be surprised how many times people have change shortages and such. Where sometimes it's not being rude bringing in 12 rolls of quarters. If they need those quarters, man, you best believe that they're thankful and super super happy to see that kind of stuff. So it's a two-way street. Take care of your businesses and they'll take care of you.
Yeah, genuinely. And just in terms of us putting closing notes into a couple of sentences, There's a lot of value to be had in supporting the people who are looking to supply a need that the community has. And that's always the way I look at small business. Whether their business is misguided or not, and it may be a failed attempt, they were trying to provide a service. They were trying to fulfill a missing gap in a community. And that's important. It's important to have a mindset where you value the growth and success of your fellow community members, because nothing else is going to keep us moving forward as a society other than communal growth and valuing the people beside you. As you know, we can't do it alone. No one person can manage the entire planet, can do anything to advance our species. So we can all have an idea, but typically, I might be the idea person, but that I'm probably not very good on acting upon my ideas or executing the ideas to the same level that I envision them. And I need other people around me in order to help execute my vision.
We didn't get here from being a solitary or individual species.
Yeah.
Yeah, conceptualizing what happens in an area can help you conceptualize your life. Explore the world around you, and maybe you'll discover something about yourself. Kind of the whole point of this show here is we're trying to take some exploration ourselves, find out what's out there.
Yeah,
And with that
exactly.
said, Cactus, would you like to do the honors?
As always, I would just like to thank everybody for joining us for another intellectual adventure.
Thank you
Ken.
very much, guys.
Take care,
Until
guys.
next one.
Bye for now.